Welcome back to Sal and Pal's Watch Movies, formerly known as AM Reviews. I'm here with my friend Touly. Say hi, Touly.
Hello, guys.
And today we're going to be reviewing Incredibles 2. And just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. It's been 14 years since the first Incredibles movie, and this one jumps right into it after the previous one. Now Bob, Mr. Incredible, is left to take care of Jack Jack, while Helen, Elastigirl, is out saving the world.
Sal, before we continue here, did you want to talk a little about the short that was showed before the movie?
Yes. Thank you for reminding me. So, as everybody knows, Pixar is notorious for their pre-short mini movies, and the name is Bao. So, Touly, do you want to introduce the short?
Yeah, I liked it, and basically starred a mother of a family. You don't really know much about what's happening at the beginning, but little by little it gets revealed. She starts developing this relationship with this dumpling that comes alive. She just comes to be very fond of it, but as it continues to grow up, it starts taking like a life of its own, just like how any child would, and it starts deviating away from the mother, and because of this it starts causing relationship problems between the two. Short story pretty much summarized what happened at the end. It got to a point where the dumpling, who is represented as like a son of her, he brings home like a girlfriend. The son just returns back home to get his stuff and leave with the new bride to be. And of course the mother is pretty much destroyed by this, and she gets into an argument with the son dumpling. During this small like scuffle, she just ends up gobbling him up because she was so frustrated. Upon realizing, what she has done, she breaks down. This was just basically a metaphor to like her real son, who apparently from the way they showed the short, like someone who she hasn't confronted or talked to for a while. She actually has a real son. The father might have gone out and contacted the son to come back home or something to talk to the mother. So you get the ending scene where the actual son, who's pretty much like an adult now, he comes back and reunites with his mom. And yeah, it just ties up really well at the end. Like the family comes back together, and the son is married to the girl that the son dumpling brought back, who he was gonna run away with, and they end up living happily ever after. So it tied up pretty well at the end. I liked it mostly because it kind of reminded me of Up. Or like almost any other shorts out there where they didn't use any dialogue. Everything was told through like expression, facial expressions, their mannerism. So I like that aspect of the short.
Yeah, same here. I was going to say that if you didn't bring it up, but there was no dialogue between the characters, just emotion, expressions. And here's the thing. I've always said this. If it's a good story, there doesn't really need to be a dialogue. Yeah, as long as you can show the characters interacting with each other, that's all you need. And this was a perfect example of that. The mother, I would assume that we see her when the son already left the house. And this is years after, because it's just her and her husband. She's making dumplings. She's just there by herself. The husband basically eats in a rush and leaves. So she has this sorrow in herself. And then her sorrow basically it develops into this dumpling that she believes comes alive. Starts off as a baby, and we see it grow as her son. And eventually the son left, right? There was one scene that I really enjoyed was when the dumpling and her are riding in the bus, and they're sharing baked pork buns. And that was their comfort food. Every time I go to Chinatown here in LA or in San Francisco, I see these buns and I always buy them. They're the perfect size to carry around as a snack. But I see other people basically just buying them and sharing them. Even if there's enough, they still just grab one and split it halfway and they share it. So it's this comfort food. So I believe that this is how people in any culture, interact, especially through food. So in that scene, it was her and him sharing this food, but sharing the moment. And at the end, the son comes back, the real son, and brings baked buns. And they share them. And that was so touching that my sister who went to see the movie with me, she started kind of like tearing up. And I look at her and I'm like, you're crying. And she's like, shut up. You're not a mother. You wouldn't understand. And I'm like, okay. That's another thing that I love about Pixar shorts. They do pull on people's heartstrings, and they did it perfectly in this one. No dialogue, no need for words, and I didn't even hear any music playing. It was just like a very subtle, music in the background, if any, but the characters' interaction and their emotions, perfectly done. So that was a short. What else can we say? We liked it. That's all we can say. If you go see Incredibles 2, make sure you pay attention to this one. Moving on to Incredibles 2, Touly, now the big show after 14 years. What'd you think of this?
Overall, I liked it. Probably not as much as other people, I would say, but it was solid. It kind of reminded me more of like a superhero movie in terms of if you were to compare it to like the modern Marvel or DC movies. For some reason, it had that feel to me more so than the first Incredibles movie. Maybe it's because it focused more on a particular hero. In this case, is Elastigirl, and how there was so much more of an emphasis of how the world views superheroes and how they were trying to rewrite this perception that superheroes were not legal in whatever it is that they were doing, regardless if their intentions were good. It kind of fell in line with some themes that I normally come across when I watch other, superheroes that, either from the Marvel series or the DC series. So in that retrospect, I liked it a little bit more than the first Incredibles. But there are a few things that maybe it's me just being a little picky that might have lowered the overall score of this movie for me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, in terms of like the humor and stuff, I mean it's there, particularly when it revolved around Jack. I think most of the people in the sitting with me, they were laughing most of the time when it came to Jack and what Jack was doing. I mean, I think it wasn't surprising when they revealed who the villain was. Like, I already kind of caught on when they introduced the potential villains, like who could have been the potential villains. I already kind of made the assumption that, okay, it has to be these people.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't, shocking there. But like I said, it was solid from start to finish. I was a little scared that for being like a 2-hour animated superhero movie, it felt like, I kind of felt like it was a little too long going into it, but I think for me personally, it did a good enough job to keep me absorbed in what was happening so that I couldn't like just back out and start questioning why is this or why is that. I never got that sensation.
Yeah, well, with me, I mean, let's start off with thing you said, back to this is reminding you of other superhero movies. For me, it resembled the theme in Civil War, where they come to the Avengers and say, hey, you guys are just destroying the city. You're saving people, but at the same time, you're destroying stuff. And who's stuck with the bill? Taxpayers. So that kind of thing, it referred to that in the sense that like, oh look, we, people don't see what the superheroes do, they just see the damage they cause. And I liked how they brought back, like all the original cast. Of course, I love that every time we see a movie that has the same characters and the actors did not perish because it was 14 years, I'm always happy. So with that, I was really happy about that. I did notice that Elastigirl, Holly Hunter, her accent was a little heavier in this movie. It could have been, I don't know, because it's 14 years and she's aged. Maybe she's a little with a deeper voice. But that kind of did throw me off, but not to the point where I didn't enjoy the movie. I did understand that it's 14 years as a fan. So it was just enjoyable. The other thing is that we see other cast members that we know from other shows. Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. He's the shady lawyer. Also, we see Jonathan Banks, who is also Mike, the hitman from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Just having those two people in the movie. Saul was Winston, who's the rich brother, and then Jonathan Banks, Mike the hitman. In this movie, he was Rick Dicker, the guy who basically helps Mr. Incredible, relocate and stuff like that and, wipe people's minds. So in that sense, as a fan, I like that I kind of saw the credits roll. I started looking at these names. I'm like, oh, that name looks familiar. That looks familiar. Also, another name that popped out was Phil LaMarr. Phil LaMarr, to me, he's like voice actor that pops up in any game that I play. He's been in Metal Gear Solid as Vamp. He's been in Futurama. He's also been in Pulp Fiction. So, I mean, just having him around, he's also been in Mad TV for his role as, the delivery guy. He's like really shaky and jittery. So just knowing that those characters are there, I mean, it was just I had a little giggle. And of course, Samuel L. Jackson talking about the Marvel Universe, being here again as Lucius. It was just incredible. Now let's talk about the story. For me, the story seemed a little down in the sense that it kind of reminded me of the first movie, in the sense that we see people coming to, superheroes and say, hey, we're trying to help you, give you a job. They take the job and find out that one of the bosses is actually the bad guy. Ooh, big thing. Same thing that happened in the first one. It was Buddy. Big twist. In this one, it's almost the same story, but it's a different gender. Now it's a female. Okay, we get that. You're trying to mix it up. But in one sense, it did not take away from the movie. It just kind of, made me say, like, are you really going to give us the same story? This is also happened with Star Wars, it's just revisiting the same story, nostalgia, it's like it makes you feel good to see the same characters on the screen. And I was like, are we gonna let this slide? And then at the end I was like, hey, you know what, I'm good with it. So the only thing is that I am going to take a few points for that, because it was not a unique story that I wanted to appear. The same thing is behind the story of the brother and sister. They just say that the brother is nostalgic towards superheroes because his dad supported them, and he ties superheroes to his dad, so that's why he wants to help superheroes. Versus the sister, she's upset at superheroes because superheroes were not there to protect her family, or her dad really relied on them when he should have relied on himself to protect his family. That's all they feed you. There's no story other than some guys broke in, tried to steal our stuff, shot my dad, and my dad's not here no more. Yeah, I came up with a better story myself. I could have basically said, these are some bad guys who were put in jail because some supers, and who supported the supers? This guy. He's like their millionaire who's throwing money at them, giving them the money, donations. Now supers are not around. They're out of jail. They want payback. So they go to this guy's house and just kill him. That would have been a better, interesting story, to cause the sister to go the evil route and the brother to basically go the good route. So it's the good and bad. That would have been an interesting story. I don't know how you see that, Touly. What do you think?
I think had they not had the sister reveal this to Elastigirl, again, I'm always big on whether something is revealed through exposition versus actually showing me what happened. I guess this comes back to what I said about earlier about me docking some points from it. I would rather you show to me what happened, and for her to just blatantly tell the reason to Elastigirl why she's the way she is, or why her brother's the way he is. I mean, granted, they did show what happened in terms of like backstory, but I would rather I want to be in the moment. Yes. They could have told it in a way where we were in the moment. Yeah, I agree with you with that, because I didn't feel as connected to her motivation. I mean, villains, they have their own ways of thinking that, convince themselves why they do the things they are. But for here, in this movie, I feel like I get it, but I didn't feel as attached. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where you're coming from.
Exactly.
And because you're not as attached, you don't feel like
you're not invested in it.
Yeah, you're not invested. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I feel the same way.
So here's another idea. I mean, for me, it would have been nice if, let's say the brother walks in on the sister who's having a nightmare, and we're in her nightmare, and she's in the house while the bad guys come in, and that's how we see it. And we see the interaction between the dad. He's like, oh, supers will be here any minute, kids, don't worry, or something in that nature. And the daughter's like, Dad, no, let's go. And he's like, no, they'll come, you'll see. Something that makes you invested in them, connect with the people. And then once you hear the shot, you don't even need to see him get shot. You just hear the shot and she wakes up. That could have made it more interesting for us as viewers. But they didn't take that route. Maybe they didn't want to, they didn't have the time. But what can I say? I'm just a viewer. I'm only there to pay to watch this movie. I'm not there to produce it or direct it. But yeah, that was my take on that. So, Touly. So this is a Pixar movie. We obviously know there's going to be jokes in the movie. What was one of the biggest jokes, or one of the jokes that stood out more for you?
I guess for me, what really stood out in terms of humor revolved around the family, actually. I know Elastigirl's out doing her own thing, but when it comes back to the family and how Bob is struggling to take care of the kids, I found his struggle, as ironic as it is, like I find his struggle quite humorous because he went in feeling quite confident that he was going to be able to like coast through these tasks of raising the kids while the mom is away, and to see him struggle with trying to resolve each of his child's problem, like with Dash, he's always mentioning math homework that he's not accustomed to solving it the way that the school is teaching the kids how to solve it nowadays. The daughter with her boyfriend problem because his memory got wiped and no longer remembers Violet's, or I was gonna say Violet's name, but he doesn't remember Violet at all. So he's trying to assist her in that and fails to when he takes the family out to the restaurant where the boyfriend works at. Or not honestly, okay, let me correct it. It's not her boyfriend. It's actually just somebody who was from the last movie asked her out to go see a movie. And then, of course, Jack finding out that he has superpowers and just trying to manage these abilities that, of course, the baby can't control. And just that scene where the baby was fighting against the raccoon.
Oh, God,
that was pretty funny. I think it was when Jack saw was watching television,
yes,
and he associated the robber to the raccoon, and that looked at Jack gave the raccoon, the raccoon gave Jack a stare back, and it started the whole fiasco outdoors. Yeah, I thought that was pretty hilarious. But yeah, most of the stuff that I found hilarious was revolved around Bob trying to take care of his family.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's one of my favorite scenes, Jack and the raccoon. I don't know, Batman and Joker, you got competition there.
Yeah.
No, it was hilarious. I mean, I like that little aspect. Also, like you said, Bob trying to take care of the family while mom's away. It's not like he's just going to leave. But yeah, he tackled it, especially the math part. It's like, I had similar experience with that with my parents. Like, they're trying to teach me a certain way to divide. I'm like, that's not how they showed me in school. And they're like, this is the way we know. And I'm like, well, my teacher's not going to prove it. But yeah, I kind of like that. The other thing I can talk about is that I really like the fact that when Jack gets the suit and he goes to Edna's house and he bonds with Edna, and we see them walking down the hall, her with her cigar and him with a lollipop, just mirroring each other. I was like, oh my God, this is so funny. So yeah, I guess the little bonding between them two, it was funny. So I like that. Other scenes my parents enjoyed, my sisters enjoyed. I took the whole family. I just wanted to see how Pixar, can go, having a little kid watching it laugh while having an adult laugh too, because for other jokes. So in a sense, Pixar, they're doing their part in the comedy part. Age range is not a big problem to them. But yeah, to me is another good story. One little Easter egg that I did find, I don't know if you saw this, while Mr. Incredible, when he drops off the boy, Jack at Edna's house, and he comes back and falls asleep for 16 hours. Then he wakes up. Johnny Quest is playing on the TV. I remember Johnny Quest as a little kid, and I loved it. And I was like, man, somebody in Pixar is a fan, so they put it there on purpose. And I was like, why else would there actually be a real cartoon in there? So I thought it was amazing. It was a little tribute. So just having people know cartoons and people who watch cartoons and stuff like that. So with that said, let's give it a final grade. Touly, what is your grade?
I would give it a solid 8.5. I was considering a 9, but that might be a little... That might have stretched it a little bit, because when I look at movies that I would give a score of a 9, they have to have that extra piece of magic to it, and I felt like this movie had the potential, but it didn't quite follow through. I know you brought up the idea of like the villains. Had they maybe dived a little deeper into that and added another twist to it, because the revelation of the villain wasn't that all too shocking, so I didn't feel like it had that extra oomph to make it a 9 for me. So that's why I'm giving it a solid 8.5. Still very good. A very good Pixar movie that I would recommend anybody to go out and watch. Not a lot of bad stuff I could say about it. Other than it could have been a little bit better. Again, the potential was there. Had it done just a little bit more, I would have probably given it a 9. But it's solid 8.5 though in my books.
Yeah. With me, I'm going to give it an 8 to an 8.5 out of 10. Bad guys, I basically concluded who it was when Elastigirl sat in and talked to the villain, which by that time we didn't know she was a villain, and she started saying like, my brother, he's the guy who sells it, I'm the person who invents stuff. And then she starts talking about her morals, as you would say, and then that alluded to me and then clicked, and I'm like, okay, she's the bad guy. The other thing is, I wanted to see more backstory for the bad guys. Maybe she could have gone and talked to the previous bad guy in jail, Buddy, say, hey, how did you get around? How did you kind of mastermind, almost defeat the Incredibles, and then get started that way, So, I mean, to me, like you said, the potential was there. 14 years, a little extra wouldn't hurt, but it's a decent movie. So I would recommend it to anybody who has kids or doesn't even have kids. Go watch it. It's a fun movie. Okay, so that wraps up our review for Incredibles 2. Join us next time when we review Ant-Man and the Wasp. And social media is down in the description. And remember, keep watching movies.